Tommy, run uphill, sirens might work okay. How many of you, when you were kids, the sirens would go off and it would warn you that there was a potential nuclear attack? Anybody in this room? Yeah. And what was the response? Crawl under your desk. Exactly. Right. One threat, nuclear war. One response, crawl under your desk. Right? Right? Sirens are great if you're in a relatively confined area that you can be assured that people will hear it, and it warns of one threat with one response. The problem with wildfires is you don't necessarily know where they're going. You don't know what evacuation routes are closed. I know there's a lot of information. Well, what evacuation route are we going to do? I'm going to tell you, folks, that depends on the day. Because the evacuation route that you think you might want to use might be burned over and covered by fire. That happened a lot. And that's what you have to adjust on the fly. As a matter of fact, and I'll get into this a little bit, you're responsible for knowing the various ways to get out of your house, out of your neighborhood. Now you say to me, there's only one road. Okay, well, there's got to be more than one way to get out. I talked to a guy in Paradise. He said, Sheriff, the road was backlogged. It was clogged. There was no way for me to get. But I remember as a kid, the old railroad tracks, and they had turned it into a bike path. And he said, I turned my truck down the bike path, and I headed down to Chico on the bike path. Are you normally supposed to drive on a bike path? No. When the world's coming in, is it okay to drive on a bike path? Heck yes, right? That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. You got to think about different ways that you're going to be able to get out if the way that you anticipate getting out is closed down. And one of the things I caution public emergency managers about is when you tell people this is going to be the evacuation route, oftentimes what they do is go, okay, I know everything I need to know, and now I get to tune out. And when the bad thing happens, well, I'm just going to go the evacuation route. Oh, wait a second, now the evacuation route is closed. What do I do now, right? Because you didn't take responsibility for coming up with a plan B. And there's no way that we can come up with a plan B for every single one of you, right? Can't be done. The next thing that you need to understand is that all of these warning systems are wonderful and they work incredibly well, as long as technology is working. But there's a deficit here because I know for a fact that technology doesn't work very well here because every time I try to call my friend Rick on the cell phone, I can't hear a damn word that he says. Sometimes we can text each other, right? That's your reality, right? Your reality is that you don't have good cell phone service, and most of these systems that are in place rely upon that. Social media relies upon the internet, right? Which relies upon the power, right? Radio stations, all of those things have to be taken into account. That works great as long as technology is working, but once technology is down, then we really have an impaired ability to talk to you and communicate with you, which is why you've got to be part of the solution, right? You got to be prepared. You got to go when you got to go, right? No way to guarantee 100% saturation. Even under the best of circumstances, we can put this message out to all of these people through all of these platforms, and there's no way that I can guarantee that everybody is going to get the message. I've been through it. I know. I didn't get the message. Why not? Well, you were in an area where your cell phone didn't work, right? You didn't sign up. No way to guarantee 100% saturation. And the other thing is, there is no way to guarantee that people will do what you ask them to do. I hope that I stand here today as a motivator for doing what you need to do to save yourself, to be prepared ahead of time, and to listen to your public safety professionals. I hope that this is motivating you to that end. That brings me to this next piece, which is people will refuse to do what they are asked to do, or they won't get the message, which is why we have to have systems to shelter people in place. And what's interesting about this is when I talk to my colleagues in the fire service, they go, oh, wait a second, if you call it shelter in place or whatever word they use, and it's got to be like 40 acres wide, and there's got to be like gravel laid down, you have to have a water source and all that kind of stuff. And I said, well, let's figure out another word that we can use to talk about where people can save their lives when they didn't get the message or they refused to leave when they should have. And as I told you the story about one of my deputies moved people into the black, Doug told you the same story about how they did it. We did it at the hospital. We did it in parking lots. We sheltered lots of people in place. So as public safety professionals, we need to be looking where we can shelter people in place. But you need to look for it too. You need to be aware of your surroundings in your neighborhood and think about, where can I go to survive if I can't get out, right? That's part of your responsibility. Next slide, please. Oh, good, I'm done. Aren't you glad I'm done? What a horrible message, right? So here's the deal. Bottom line is this. I really did try to paint a graphic picture for you. I really did try to get you to understand. But folks, I wasn't engaging in hyperbole. I wasn't hyping it up. I'm telling you the God's honest truth here about what this is like and what your responsibility is. You live in a beautiful county. You have incredible public safety professionals here. But the price you pay for that is that you've got to be responsible for your own safety. You've got to be part of the solution, because there's no way that they're going to be able to do it for you. Fair enough? All right. Looks like I'm getting the hook. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I think probably what we ought to do now is hold questions for a few minutes. I'd like, if possible, food will be served, but I would like, if possible, all of the presenters, if they could get in line first so that they can eat, so that they'll have the strength to answer your questions later. So if those of you who will be presenting later, as well as our guests from Butte County, if you want to go up and get fed, the food is ready, I believe. And after they've gotten their food, the rest of us can line up and I'm gonna, because there's more people here than we figured on, I'm gonna ask supervisors not to eat tonight.